I'm going to start with a little bit of what we just heard. And we've heard that research into more subsidies for the workforce, whether it's child care, whether it's housing, whether it's Medicaid, will increase employment and opportunities. Mr. Livingston, in your experience, would increasing federal benefits and increasing money from the government going to workers, would that drive them back into the workforce?
No, sir.
You explain to this committee the challenge that you have week in and week out and the conversations that you have with employees about why they don't show up.
Yes, sir. I mentioned that in my statement because their first comment would be they can make more to stay at home. You know, I use a scenario, and we're just good old country folks, and so if you go to an animal park or you go to a Colorado State Park or anything like that, signs say do not feed the wild animals. And the reason why they say that is not because of the safety, sir. It's because you cripple them in their ability to be able to fend for themselves. And the more that we're giving and the more that the government is giving to these people that don't want to work anyway, we're crippling them as we would feeding a wild animal. They're not able to do on their own or make it on their own. They're very dependent on the government, and the more that's given, the more dependent they're getting. And so, no matter what incentive you offer, they're not going to come back to work. Work is not the incentive for them.
I want to move back to your construction business for just a second. You did a very nice job of laying out what happens when interest rates continue to go up as a direct result of inflation. Can you talk about the number of new home starts that you saw prior to inflation versus where we are now and how that's affecting your business?
Absolutely. I mentioned also that we averaged 2 contracts a month where we were averaging 5, 6, sometimes 10 contracts a month. We would have 13 houses going at one time. Now, like I said, we're around 2. The inflation and the supply chains issues have caused people not to want to buy a house because of the length of time.
So we heard today that the answer to the housing crisis is more LIHTC housing, people renting apartments that are subsidized by the federal government. Is that going to impact the workforce? Is that going to build home ownership? Is that going to build personal wealth? And is that the right way to get people into the housing market? I worry deeply about the younger generation being able to even afford a house for the first time at the way inflation is driving the cost now. But how do you see competition with subsidized rental versus home ownership?
Again, we're crippling these people by giving them this new home. The jobs are the amount of inflation and the interest rates going up are driving people not to be able to afford these homes or afford the home that they should afford for what they are working. But we're here giving the people that don't want to work a house to sit in, and again, there's no incentive to go to work, as you mentioned, because if the government is paying for their housing and they're paying for their food and they're paying for everything that they do, they don't have to go to work. They're sitting there being handed out everything that they have, and then people like us that are having to work to take care of that is the one that's getting hurt.
Mr. Bergman, you've mentioned how important research and development is. Talk about the number of ideas and products that you're working on right now that you would not be working on if you could, when your ability to expense research and development goes away.
Well, right now, our research and development program is driving about 40% of my time, and scientists behind me, and 2 of them actually in the room with me, and many of our engineers. I mean, we conduct that because we feel we need to, and we need to take the risk to do it. It's so new to me, Congressman, that I honestly haven't considered what I would do if those deductions went away. I mean.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. Mr. Chairman, yield back.